more people coming in. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another day at Creator Fest, another day at the Learnathon. We're really excited to have you all here. I see some people in the chat. Let us know in the chat where you're coming in from. I see Cleveland. I see Seattle. I'm in Miami. And even though I'm in Miami, it is still cold. So I don't, oh my goodness, my cat. My cat wanted to be a part of the workshop today too, so he'll learn some things as well. We see Florida, London, Nairobi, UK. Love to see it. Welcome, welcome everyone. If you're not familiar with my face and who I am, my name is Darlise Calix, software engineer, but also co-founder, co-organizer of Create Her Fest. Super excited to have you all here and eternally grateful for everyone who attends any of these workshops. Love this for me, love this for you. Today, I won't delay. So today we have Lisa Carpenter, who will be presenting on prototyping AI applications with Streamlit. I'm excited for this. I hope you're excited for this. I've been looking forward to this workshop. Just a little bit about Lisa. She is the lead instructor of AI, data science, data engineering, and business analysis at Digital Future. So I will pass the mic on over to her and we'll get started today.
Darlise, thank you so much and a huge welcome to everyone. It's so exciting to see you all here and I'm so excited to get to talk to you about one of my favorite technologies, which is Streamlit. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen with you and let's get started. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why prototyping, what is prototyping and why do you want to do it? And then we're going to get to the all important bit. What is Streamlit? And I'm going to give you a real crash course in using Streamlit. And very bravely and a little bit nervously, I am going to do a live demo of creating a Streamlit app from scratch. And if all goes well, we are going to have our very own chatbot created live from scratch together. And I'll be sharing all of the code and everything you need to know to make your very own one as well. And then at the end, I'll wrap up and I'll tell you some of those next steps on how you can get started with Streamlit as well. So a tiny bit about myself, and thank you, Darlise, for the amazing introduction. So I am a Londoner. It is 5 p.m. in London today. So hello to those of you joining from around the world. And I can see a few Londoners that I know in chat as well. So a big welcome to everyone. If you are wondering where my accent is from, it is London. So around 5 years ago, I left my career as a data scientist and formally became an instructor. So I get to spend my days really just talking to everyone about how great data is. I'm so excited to get that opportunity with all of you as well. I work at a company called Digital Futures. We're a London-based startup that is all about empowering everyone with technology careers, regardless of their background or the choices they made when they are younger. So a huge thank you to Digital Futures for letting me do opportunities like this. I am very motivated by building and creating, which is why I was so excited with the Create Her Fest and everything Darlise and her team is creating. And the fact that all of the participants get to do the hackathon and the ideation to create and build. It is so, so excited. And I'm really happy to be able to share Streamlit with you for that purpose. A little bit about me. I love to climb. Indoor bouldering, you'll often find me at a climbing wall trying to get to the top. Fantastic. So let's move on. So when we are doing a hackathon, when we are doing our ideas, creating a working prototype is such a key part of that. If we make a working prototype, it's really that first step to a real solution. It shows that the idea you've come up with is feasible, it is possible. So when you're presenting to judges, when you're sharing your idea, you can let them interact with it. You can let them have a click around and really get in, just get in there. The other thing as well, it is so empowering building something and seeing it work. Wow, it is so much fun. It is so empowering. I still remember that first time I created my own mini little app didn't really do much. It did some basic calculations, but the fact I created it, it worked, and I was able to share it with the world. It was just one of the best feelings ever, and so, so empowering, which I feel like is one of the key values of Create Her Fest. Also brings the wow factor a little bit. If you are in a hackathon and you're trying to impress the judges, having something they can interact with, click around on, and see working is a little bit of a wow factor. So it's definitely a great goal for you to have during a hackathon like the Create Her Fest. So if you want to create a working app or a working web app specifically, normally there's quite a few things that we need to do. We are going to need a little bit of a front end. We're going to need HTML, CSS, maybe JavaScript, React, or something like that. And that's going to be what lets us actually display things to the user. So that's our front end. We might then have a back end, and here we might use Python, Java, SQL, or Ruby, or something like that. I don't know about you. I don't really know any of these. I don't know CSS. I don't know HTML. I don't know JavaScript or React. This probably feels quite daunting. Once we've got our front end and our back end, we need somewhere to put it. This normally means a web server. We might use Apache. We might use Nginx. And we need somewhere we can put it. So it's quite a lot. And in a hackathon, when we've got a really short space of time and maybe a really small team, this might not be the most appropriate. Don't get me wrong, full stack engineer, very doable. If that is what you're aspiring to, or if that's what you are, that is absolutely amazing. But in a hackathon, it's not always the best kind of approach to use. And that is what brings us to a new tech, or newish tech, which is Streamlit. So Streamlit is a Python library, which is for creating web apps. We are not going to need a front-end language, a back-end language, or a web server tech. Streamlit is going to do all of that for us. So just using Python, we are going to be able to create our very own web apps, which is exceptionally exciting. You only need to know Python and nothing else. So why do we use Streamlit? It allows us to easily create web apps with a few different ways that we can create and share our web apps. And hopefully I'm going to have one that you can access by the end of this session. The great thing is that you do not need front-end experience. So you do not need to know CSS or HTML or JavaScript. You need none of that. The only language you need is Python, and it's quite straightforward Python as well. So even basic Python, you can get your own Streamlit app running straight away, which is so much fun. The other part is that it is created with AI in mind. It started in the data world and it's moved a tiny bit into, or not a tiny bit, it's moved massively into the AI world. So if you want to create a chatbot, Streamlit has native options for creating a chatbot, and it will take care of all of the graphics and interactions for you. So exceptionally easy to create a chatbot. I say when my demo is probably going to go all wrong, but in theory, it is very, very easy to create a chatbot. Let us see. Nice. The other great thing about Streamlit, and something to be aware of, is that we can use Streamlit with so many different libraries. Streamlit is just Python, and that means anything else that exists in Python, you can use with Streamlit. It's also got some built-in handling for some of the content as well. So pandas and Streamlit go hand in hand. They work beautifully together. All of our incredible AI options like the OpenAI APIs, Vertex AI, Gemini, LangChain, Hugging Face, it all works beautifully. So if you want to create an AI-powered solution, Streamlit allows you to do that. It's also got some beautiful data visualization options as well. So Matplotlib, Plotly, it all works beautifully together. Nice. You can develop Streamlit locally, and that's what I'm actually going to be doing today. I'm going to do some local dev, and then at the end, we're going to move it into the cloud. And I'll show you how you can get free hosting from Streamlit for your apps in the cloud. And here is your first look at some Streamlit code. I'll show you what st.balloons does in a moment. So Streamlit is all about widgets, and each widget is basically one line of code. It's really, really straightforward. On the left there, we've got the example of the chat widget. So this is the user and the assistant having a little chat together. That's something we're going to be creating today. And there's lots of output and display widgets. So that one we can see there is the very classic data frame, is a pandas data frame that we can edit and play with. So lots of options for inputting things and outputting things. Two real key components when building any app. The other thing is Streamlit has so many components. Components are either created by the Streamlit team or created by the community, and they are even more options outside of the typical ones that we can make use of. So Streamlit can do so much for us. Now, I'm nervous. I hope you're not nervous. We're going to do the crash course. I'm going to give you a quick live demo, and we are going to go ahead and create a couple of things together. So let's quickly exit PowerPoint and welcome here. So I've got two things to start with. Over here, I'm using Fleet, and I've got my my Python file just here. Has something gone wrong with sharing? Oh no, we're moving to my screen. There we go, perfect. So over here we can see I've got import Streamlit as st. So this is going to be my development environment. And over here, I've just briefly got my command prompt, because the first thing I'm going to do is launch my Streamlit environment. So I'm going to start with that classic hello world. Everyone needs to start with hello world. And let's go ahead and launch this. So it's going to be Streamlit run, and then the name of my file, which is createher.py. Fingers crossed, it is launching over here. So let's get rid of my command prompt, and let's bring over my web app, which is now just here. So it has launched a mini little server on my local machine, which is now really cool. So I don't need Apache, I don't need Nginx. This is just a nice little local server that is running. So it's taking care of a lot of things. You can see that I wrote plain Python, and we've got this already quite attractive hello world. So we're already doing pretty good. I'm just going to go into my settings and put this run on save. So this is really cool. It means whenever I hit save over here, it's going to automatically update here. I'm also just going to put it into dark mode so that our eyes are protected. Here we go. So if I add some more code, let's say hello to create her first. I'm going to hit Control Save, Control S. You can see it automatically goes ahead and updates over here. So already so quick. It is the quickest kind of tech stack you can imagine. So I promised I'd show you what st.balloons does. Let's give it a go. st.balloons, Control Save. Oh no. Oh, I can't spell balloons. Oh my gosh, team. There we go. Let's try again. We have balloons. st.balloons does give us beautiful, beautiful balloons. And if I click rerun, it would happen again. We can celebrate with beautiful balloons throughout. But let's try something else. What if we would like a little bit of interaction? We can create a button. And for our button, we can give it some text. I'm going to say, click me. And I need to assign this button to a name. I'm going to be very creative and call it my button. So you can see this is a very, very pure Python. My button equals st.button. If I hit save, we now have, we have balloons, but we have this beautiful button. At the moment, when we click it, it does create balloons, but not because the button is attached to the balloons. When we interact with a Streamlit app, it reruns top to bottom. So what's actually happening when we click this is it's actually running all of this again, including st.buttons. So let's improve this a tiny bit. I'm going to remove the balloons. Don't worry, they're coming back. So if we just check what happens now, nothing happens, which is spot on. So if I want to make this when I click the button, what I need to do is if my button, that is it. Now everything we pop in here, this will happen when we press the button. It is that simple. It is so crazily simple. Sometimes I cannot believe how simple it is to create with Streamlit. So if my button, we can do st.balloons. I need to learn how to spell balloons. I'm apparently struggling with that word today, but let's give that a save. And let's click over here. Amazing. Now, every time we click the button, we are getting balloons. I feel like I could end here, right? Like, this is just already so great. Took half a second. It's so much fun to click the button. I feel like I want to add a little thing to tell me how many times I've interacted with this button. I could just sit here all day clicking it. So let's add a little bit more code and make it so that when we click the button, it counts. If you've ever created something in Python, you know we need a little bit of a counter. I'm going to say counter starts at 0. And then if we click the button, we can say counter plus equals 1. And nice little shortcut here where we are just adding 1 to our counter. It's the same as doing equals counter plus 1. It's a nice little shortcut there. And now we could say st.write, hit the button counter times, and then we're using an f string. Now, some of you may be following and may wonder if this is really going to work. It worked so far, but let's see what happens if we click it again. Oh no, something's gone wrong, team. Every time we click this, it still says it's only hit the button 1 time. What is going on? I'm sure many of you can tell. I mentioned earlier that when we build with Streamlit, every time we interact with a page, it runs again from top to bottom. This means this cheeky little counter equals 0 is running every single time. So my counter is always being reset to 0. Then when I click the button, we add 1. This does update, but we never make it past 1. It's so sad. But do not worry, of course, there is a way around this. While setting a standard variable might get reset, Streamlit has our back. There is a special set of variables we can use to make sure this doesn't happen. And it's called the session state. It's going to be st.sessionState. And this is just a Python library. But anything, not Python library, it's a Python dictionary. It is a beautiful dictionary. So anything we put in this dictionary will stay. So let's see, we are going to say if counter not in our session state, then st.sessionState counter equals 0. So if it's not already there, then we are going to go ahead and add it, and we're going to set it as 0. And now, instead of saying counter plus equals 1, it's going to be st session state counter, and down here the same as well. So fingers crossed there's no syntax errors. Let's give it a go. Okay, that works so far. Let's see again. Yay! So now this time counter is not getting reset. This time counter remains because it's already in session state. We're not getting it overridden to 0. So we now have this beautiful little counter of how many times we click the button. It's worth noting that when we put this live, if I put this in my community cloud on Streamlit, we'd find that your button clicks and my button clicks are separate. So session state is local to the user. It is not shared. If I wanted a shared experience of how many times we've all clicked the button, that's when we would need to introduce maybe a database, maybe something similar to capture those in a backend. So when we're doing it for a user, it's all local. There is, as we have seen in chat, we also have st.snow. Let's give that a little preview. There is our beautiful snow falling down. Streamlit is owned by Snowflake, so they added st.snow. And yes, there is a lot of predefined functions such as st.snow, st.balloons. There's so many more for the widgets and all the different components that exist. That doesn't mean you're limited to those though. The component function lets you create anything you can dream of. And you can also just introduce nearly anything with pure Python. So if you can write it in pure Python, you can create it in Streamlit as well. There are so many more functions than we're going to be talking about today. The Streamlit documentation is so fantastic. Would highly recommend it. If you're going to build, then it's so great to look at that documentation. If you refresh the page, does it take it as a new session? Not quite. So, oh yes, okay. Doesn't always. There is a cache, and normally we would do a clearing of the cache. That behavior is a little bit unstable. So if you definitely want a new session, I would recommend clearing the cache and then refreshing. But for me just now, refreshing did reset. Yeah. Exactly. So shall we take a look at adding in a little bit of the chat functionality? We want to go ahead and actually make it so that we can chat. I'm very depressingly going to just kind of get rid of everything we've done so far. I'm just going to leave the hello create her fest like so. And now I want to make it so that we can have a little bit of a chat. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually st.chatMessage. And I am going to assign a role. And there's 2 roles that out of the box give you a little bit of cool branding, I guess. So that is user. So chat message user. And I'm actually going to do this with the with notation. So with chat message and then giving it a little bit of a colon. And now I can go ahead and write in the message that I want it to have. So we're going to do st.write. Here is a message. And hopefully when I save, here we go. We've now got this user message coming through. Kind of looks a little bit like you might expect a chat app to have. And let me simulate the agent or the assistant responding. So with st.chatMessage, and now I'm going to put assistant over here. st.write. Here is a response. Give that a save. We can see we've got that response from the assistant or the agent. And then I guess we could do with st.chatMessage user st.write. Here is a new message. Of course, I'm just hard coding all of this at the moment, but you can start to see how it builds. I actually think it looks better in light mode, looks a little bit more chat-like. You do have options of putting boxes around things as well. But yeah, this is the start of our chatbot. This is a thing where we can build up a user putting an input and a response. Let me just pop that back to dark mode. Does Streamlit have its own programming language? Great question, but no, it does not. It is pure Python. So it has its own functions and methods that we call, but it is not its own programming language. It follows all of the rules of Python, and it is just pure Python. You can see that it's a .py file that I'm actually using. So this is how we express messages. Now I want to change this up a bit. I want to be able to put in my own message. To do this, I can use the st.chat input. So I'm going to say the user input is equal to st.chat input, and then what's your favorite greeting? So give that a save. And now you can see we have this chat input down here. At the moment, this doesn't actually do anything. It just lets the user put in a string, and that is about it. We need to connect this to something. So similar to when we created that button, when we created the button, we used if notation. So we said if my button, and then did the thing we want with the button. What we're going to do now is if user input. And that just means that if the user types in their input and hits enter, it's now going to trigger this bit of code. And what we could now do is with st.chat message, and that's going to be the user chat message. It is going to be st.write, and we just want to write that user input. So let's see if this works. In theory, when we type in some text, you can see it's going to appear up there. At the moment, we're only going to be able to pop in one at a time. So all of the ones I hard-coded are here, but when I add in a new thing, it just kind of replaces the previous one. And this goes back to something that we said at the very beginning, which is the code is always run top to bottom. So it kind of loses the history of what I have been putting in. But this is exactly the same as the problem we had earlier. When we clicked the button for the balloons, it lost it because it was doing it top to bottom. But we were able to use session state in order to keep that chat history, that button history. And it's exactly the same with our chat history. If we put our chat history into the session state, we'll be good. So let's build this up together. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of our pre-built ones just there. So now we just have a weird little thing where you can go ahead, just type in anything you like. There we go. And we want to build this up so that we keep a little bit of history, and I want to make it so that our assistant responds. So I'm going to just make a little list. Possible responses equals, just going to put in some of my favorite greetings, maybe a super energetic, friendly heya, maybe a really fun yo, 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 maybe a little hello, I'm a bot. So 3 possible options our bot is going to respond with. And hopefully by the end of this session, we are going to replace that with an AI. So a large language model is going to be our greeting bot and respond to us. So possible responses, hey, yo, 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 hello, I'm a bot. So for now, we're hard coding it. Later on, hopefully, we are going to be able to make this a little bit cooler. So same as we did earlier, we're just going to do a little bit of a check if messages exists. So if messages not in st.session state, so messages doesn't exist yet, we are just going to create it. So if messages doesn't exist, let's just make it an empty list. What we're going to end up with is a list of dictionaries. So nice and simple structure. So if messages not in st.session state, create it. So we've had no messages just yet. Nice. So now when the user goes ahead and inputs a message, we want to add that to our session state. So it's going to be st.session state, and it's going to be that messages. And it's going to be .append because it's a list. We want to add it to the list. And we want to append a dictionary that says the role and the content. So it's a little cute dictionary. The role is user because we've just done the user. So we can just hard code that to be user. And the content is going to go ahead and be that user input. So it's going to write it to the screen so we can see it. It's also saving it. So we're going to get that nice, beautiful chat history in the background. I love that. And what we can also do is quickly come up with a response as well. So now we could do with st.chatMessage, and this is going to be assistant. I'm going to say the response is equal to, and quickly, cheekily bring in a tiny bit of random. So from random import choice. And now I can say the message is choice. And it's going to be a choice from possible responses. Now we want to st.write the response. And then I'm just going to go ahead, copy paste this line of code here. And the role will be the assistant. And the content will be the response. I'm breaking PEP 8 a tiny bit here. My line's a little bit too long, but please forgive me for that. So what do we have? If the user puts in an input, we are going to show it, and then we're going to save it to our chat history. And we're going to get a possible response from our list up here. And then we're going to print that out as well. And we're also going to store that in the session state. Easy peasy. We are missing one little step though, which is at the moment, we're not doing anything to display the history. So before we take in the user's input, we actually just need to loop through the messages up here and display them. So let's go ahead and do that. It's literally just going to be for message in messages. So pure Python here. It's not called messages. For message in st session state. Ooh, spellings. Messages. There we go. That's much better, isn't it? So for message in st session state messages. So it's going to loop through each message one by one. And now we can just do what we were doing before. So with st chat message, and in brackets, we tell it the role, but we want to get that from the message we're looping through. So that's going to be calling that dictionary option. So it's message and role. There we go. And then we want to put in the message itself. So we're going to use st.write, and then it's just going to be the message content. So this bit here is, let's make a note, load our history. This is going to go through the existing messages, if there are any, and it's going to go ahead and display them one by one. And then our user can continue the combo. So let's save this and see if it worked. There we go. We've already got that chat history coming through. So let's give it a test. I'm going to say hi. It responds yo, 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 which is really fun. And whatever we pull in, it's now just going to go ahead and give us a response. So we're like 20 minutes into building. We already have the front end framework for what we want. We're actually so close to having a working thing. We kind of just need to bring in the AI portion and we're pretty much done. So hopefully you can already see how easy it is to build with Streamlit. So if we're ready, we can now just go ahead and bring in the AI, which is really fun. So to bring in the AI, I'm actually going to be using Vertex AI Studio. So there are so many different options for large language models. What I want is a large language model that, given a greeting, it's going to go ahead and give a greeting back. So I could use pretty much any large language model, but I'm going to go ahead and use Vertex. One of the reasons I'm using Vertex is it's going to write quite a bit of the code for me. So maybe I'm cheating, but there's so many really fun options with Vertex AI Studio. So I'm going to go over to chat. This is going to give me a little bit of a space where I can create what I want. It's also going to generate the code for me. I feel like this is the biggest life hack, because all I'm going to need to do is take the code it gives me, then I'm just going to put that in my Streamlit app, make a few tweaks so it all works together. And then just like that, we're going to have a beautiful, already working app. So the first thing up here is the system instructions. In a large language model, this is essentially when we give it a job or a task or a role. We tell it what it is and what its job is. I'm going to say, you are a friendly, fun greeting bot. Someone will say a greeting to you. You will give them back a fun but short and snappy greeting in the same theme. If they say anything except a greeting, you will tell them off in a fun way. I don't know why anyone needs this app in their life. It's a little bit silly, it's a little bit fun, but it's what we're going to go with today. I can now test this out. So I can write my prompt in here. Let's say, hello, and it responds, hey there, sunshine. Really, really great. Let's try it again. I'm going to ask it, what is cake? And hopefully it should tell me off. There we go. So I can see it is behaving as expected. I'm going to go ahead and clear the conversation apart from one. Oh, this might be interesting. I've hit my limits. We'll have to see how we get on. This might go terribly wrong, team. We'll go ahead and see. Okay, so we can see our code. So it's already giving us all of this beautiful code that shows us how it is going to work. And it is this multi-turn generate content that really powers our models. But one of the really great things with Vertex AI is that we're able to create what we want, change everything over here, and then go ahead and do the get code part of them. So we don't need to write this code. It is all pre-written for us. We now just need to take this code, hopefully not have any billing issues, and take that forward. Nice. So I'm going to move this to my other screen, apologies, but we can come back to our code and see what changes we need to make. First thing I'm going to need to do is just bring in vertex and the correct model parts. Here we go. So just my import statements. Something I did before the session as well is set up my API key. Didn't set up my billing though, so we'll see how this goes. So I need to bring in my secret. So this is my API key. I just need to define this. So I'm going to say my API key equals, and it's st.secrets, and I called it API key. Nice. So st.secrets is again a library, but it's reading from an external file called secrets.toml. So you can pop all of your secrets in that so that you never have to share them. I feel like we are just going to get a response from the bot, which is that I don't have billing enabled. Maybe we'll try changing the model so we can go from there. It's all good fun, team. So we've got our secrets coming in. So we're getting really close now to being able to bring in the AI. So we're going to want to bring in that multi-turn generate content and the safety settings and all of that. Normally I would put this elsewhere. This single file is going to get a tiny little bit messy, which isn't great, but we'll just have to fix it. If you were building for real, I'm sure you would put these into beautiful modular pieces and have them externally and import them all in. But we have our safety settings. So these are obviously so important. If we're putting an app out there, especially if it's on the web, we want to make sure it's not going to cause any harm. I think this is defaulting everything to off. If we had more time, this is definitely something we would take a look at. We've got the temperature, which is how creative it's going to be. We've got the probability of what it's going to return. So basically it's returning the most probable best response. And this is controlling the size of the output. How much output do we want? This one you'll recognize, this was our instruction. So this is the detail we're giving the bot on what we want it to do. And then up here, it is the bit that actually connects to the model, to our beautiful large language model. I just need to replace this with my API key. And now I can make a couple of other changes as well. So I want this function here to take in my user's input. So down here, we have our user input. So I want it to be able to take in a prompt. I'm just going to go ahead and call it prompt. And at the moment, it's going ahead and it's starting a chat, but we're not actually chatting with it just yet. So instead, I'm going to say return. So it's going to give something back from this function. And I want to return chat.send message and then my prompt. So chat.send message takes a prompt, sends it to the AI, and then gets a response. That response has quite a lot of components. It contains all of the different token counts. It contains info on which model was used, contains lots of metadata. That metadata can be very, very useful. But in my case, I only want that actual text back. So we're just going to do dot text so that we only get the text back. Cool. That was such an easy little change that we've had to make here. So chat equals model.startChat. Now we do return chat.send message, give it that input prompt, and then return the text. I will say that the way I'm building this doesn't keep the chat history. It's kind of creating a new connection with the model each time. We'd need to make a few tweaks if we wanted it to keep the chat history. In our case, with our greeting bot, we don't want it to keep that chat history. So every time we say a greeting, it doesn't matter that it doesn't remember the past. So the way we're doing it for our use case is fine. But if you're building something and you want it to know the history, you'd need to build that in. So we now have a really cool function, the multi-turn generate content function takes in a prompt, gets a response back, or maybe it gets an error about billing back. We'll see. So let's scroll all the way back to the bottom. We just need to change this, right? At the moment, the response is equal to choice from possible responses. It feels so cheeky that it is so easy. Now, instead of response being this, we're just gonna change this real quick, right? So it is instead gonna be the multi-turn. We should really rename that function. It is so long. And we just need to put that user input in. This feels too easy, doesn't it? This is crazy. Let's give it a save. Let's bring back the app. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of errors. I've lost my app. Where did it go? Let's bring it back. Here it is. Nice. Let's do a cheeky little rerun just to check. I'm also going to do that refresh and clear cache just to make sure we've got a nice fresh thing. Let's see. I think it's going to give us a billing error. So let's find out if this works. Let's try just a hello. OS is not defined. Where did I call OS? Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I messed up because API key should just be equal to API key. I left in a little bit of code we didn't need. Oopsie. Let's try again. So always rerun. Hello. Let's try again. Hello. It is running. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed this is going to work. We've got a bit of a problem though. We're nearly done. And I thought this would take much longer. The bot has said hello there, or it said hey there. Let's try again. That was a quite boring response from it. Hiya, hiya, hi, 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 hi. So it is going off, getting that AI response already, which is, working better than expected. Just in a few lines of code and literally like 10 minutes, we have gone from having a list of 3 possible options to already it is running from a large language model. Gemini is in the background there, just giving us these short little things. I just want to mix it up a little bit. I feel like it's being a little bit too snappy. Let's just, it's already a multi-line, so we can add in some spacing. There we go. Fix my tabbing. I'm a data person rather than a coder, so do forgive me that my standards aren't quite up to software engineering scratch. There we go. Let's get rid of the short and snappy. There we go. There's so much more we could do with the instructions and the prompt as well. So at the moment, this is quite basic, but we could build in a lot more that we wanted. So hitting save there, let's give it, not the sidebar. Let's give it, oh my gosh, goodbye sidebar. We don't want you. There we go. Let's see if it's a little bit more fun now. Let's see. Fingers crossed it's going to give us a little bit more of a response. You can see it's actually taking a second to respond, and we're going to fix that in a moment. You can see it's gone for a cowboy theme, I guess. Amazing. One thing it's doing at the moment is waiting for the entire response before it gives it back. But you might be used to Gemini, ChatGPT, other bots where they go ahead and do what we call streaming. So rather than waiting for that whole response, it's typically going to do it like bit by bit. And we can build that in just a second. Can you ask it a non-greeting response in here? Let's see. What is cake? Let us see. It should tell me off, so fingers crossed it's going to do that. Again, it's taking a while because it's waiting for that whole response to come back. There we go. It's giving me back that cheeky little response. So let's make a couple of really quick changes so that we get that streamed response rather than the exact response. So at the moment, it is waiting for the full response, then giving it to us. We want it to give the responses as it goes. Luckily, Gemini has our back. This is a feature of the Vertex library, and we can just turn on streaming, which is really, really cool. So up here, I've got my return chat, send message, prompt, and text. What I'm actually going to ask it to do is a little bit different. We're going to use a generator. It's actually a really easy part of Python. They were quite new to me. I had to learn them just for getting used to AI. Turns out they're actually so simple. They're basically the same as a function. So what we are going to do is we're going to say for, and we like to use the word chunk. Could use any word, but chunk is a cool word. So we're going to say for chunk in, and it's just going to be this chat message here. So in chat.send message prompt.text. Actually, no, we'll get rid of the .text from here. That will be better. So for chunk in send message prompt, we're just going to add stream equals true. So we're now using that streaming option. So rather than Gemini taking our prompt, coming up with a whole answer, finishing the answer, and then sending it back to us, what it's going to do now instead is send it back bit by bit. And then rather than return, we are going to use the yield keyword. So yield, and then it's yield chunk. We only want the text bit. So yield chunk.text. Generators are that simple. So if you're new to generators, do not worry. We just need to make one simple baby little change as well. So at the moment, I think I use st.write for the assistant st.write response. So instead of doing that, we want to make some tweaks because we want to go ahead and do that writing stream as well. So instead of writing the response, we have a beautiful feature from Streamlit called st.writestream, like that. And that hopefully is it. It's now going to be streaming that response back from Gemini, back from Vertex, and Streamlit is going to yield that response from the generator and write it live. So we don't need to do that whole waiting around thing. Let's give it a go. Let's check for no syntax errors. And let's give it a rerun just to make sure. Let's say, hey, hey. Oh, it's still a little bit slow. It is running from my local connection, which makes it a wee bit slower as well. I'm also, name response is not defined. Ooh. I think I made a mistake with our history, right? Yes, I need to fix this. So I'm attempting to put the response in, which is not good. So I think I can just do response equals. That will still do the stream, still do the write, I think. Let's give this a rerun and test. Yeah, this should still be okay, I think. This is just a little error where I was writing it back to the thing. There we go. So that's now put it into the history correctly. I just needed to give it a little bit of a name. So, wow, in literally 40 minutes, we have gone from a blank Streamlit to having created a little bot that is a little bit cheeky, but can give us a greeting. And of course, you could make your bot do almost anything you want. And Streamlit is not just limited to bots and things like that. It's almost anything that you want to build. If you want to do anything with the image, not large language models, the image AI, Streamlit has options for adding in image collectors and things like that. Just almost anything you can think of, you can kind of build it. Imagine taking this to your judges, to the hackathon, people, they'll be exceptionally impressed. But more importantly, you will be so impressed with what you have created and what you have built. So this bot is really fun, and I would love to share it with you. Unfortunately, Streamlit makes this really, really easy. If I have some code that I'm willing to make public, I have the option of using the Streamlit community cloud. All we need to do is pop the code into my GitHub, and then we can make this live for all of you to have a play with. So let me just grab my, what do I need? I need my GitHub. Where is GitHub? Nice. So let's go to GitHub really quickly. Amazing. Here is a GitHub I created earlier for us. So this is a file called streamlitapp.py. Doesn't need to be streamlitapp.py, but that is kind of like the standard. I'm literally just going to grab my code and edit this file and commit it to my repo. I'm being a bit cheeky. This isn't normally how we might like to do it. Obviously, you'd normally use good practice for using version control, but please forgive me. I'm just going to do it the quick, dirty way. There we go. So we've gone ahead, and that is now in my GitHub repository. There is one quick thing I need to do before that, which is my requirements. So requirements is a list of things that it's going to basically pip install for us. So if you imagine there's loads of libraries on your computer that you need to pip install. And this is basically the ones it's going to pip install. I actually just need to double check how we pop Vertex AI into our pip install. It's pip install Google Cloud AI Platform. Nice. So let's go ahead and quickly add that. So Google Cloud AI Platform. Now, when I launch my little mini server, it should, in theory, pip install this for us. So it should all work. And just checking I've got no more libraries that I need. No, we've got the Vertex AI one. That's this one. That's part of that. We've got Streamlit coming in, and random is just part of default Python. So that is all good. So if I now head over to the Streamlit cloud, you can see I've got so many things I'm always creating in Streamlit. We should, in theory, just now be able to visit our app. It really is that easy. Earlier on, I did go ahead and add my secret API key. So that has been added. Here we go. Hello to Create Her Fest. This is a live website that any of you can go ahead and access. It's createher.streamlit.app. Really nervous about this. Let's give it a test in the live environment. Hello, how are you? It's going to go ahead, connect to Gemini, and we get our response. Oh my gosh, team, in less than an hour. Bearing in mind that first bit was us messing around with balloons when I taught you a little bit of background on how Streamlit worked. In less than an hour, we have a working little chatbot with its history that can have a little chat. Do feel free to access. Oh, there we go. We did get an error. List has no object get. Interesting. I do not know where this error is coming from. I don't think we used get, did we? I don't know what's gone wrong here, team. List has no error. List has no get. Ooh. Oh, this is not one of my errors. Okie dokie. Nice. Let's just pretend it didn't error. Let's do that, team. Let's just go ahead and hit refresh. Try again, see what happens. I think it's when we call a second message. I think it's going to crash again. Oh, now it's fine. That was very, very weird, team. We would need to do a bit of debugging and find out what went wrong. But I don't know. If any of you replicate that error, please do let me know, because it seems to be working again. Maybe it just needed a cheeky little bit of a refresh. But hopefully, as a takeaway, you can see that it is so easy to use Streamlit to make something real, something that you can go ahead and play with. Of course, you'd probably need to do quite a bit more for your hackathon, but this was the starting point. I will pop my repository into chat for you. So if you want to see the code, you can go ahead and access that. So that was the crash course and the quick live demo. So you've just seen me use the community cloud, and you saw that all I needed to be able to do was put it in my GitHub repository, and then I could just visit the page, and that is about it. So simple to use. It manages your secret and it hosts it for you. So highly, highly recommend checking out the Streamlit Community Cloud, which is by Snowflake. It's so great. All you do, as you can see in the diagram, pop it in your GitHub, make that connection, and then you'll have a hosted Streamlit app that anyone can access and use. It means that when you're in your hackathon, all you need to do is give them a great little link like the one I just gave you. So please do check it out. If you're interested, there is also a GitHub code space connected as well. So you can develop in an online GitHub code space repository as well, which is really, really cool. Nice. So hopefully you're feeling a little bit inspired. If you are excited to go ahead and get to grips with Streamlit, I'd really recommend joining the Streamlit community. It's on the Streamlit website, and there's just a really great community of people that help each other out and kind of answer questions, share their content, share their things. There is also amazing documentation from Streamlit, amazing tutorials, and just so much out there to really help you out. So highly recommend that. There's also a Discord channel similar to the Create Her one, where you can join and talk to people about the technology there. Again, really recommend tutorials, and there is so much content out there. One of the great things about using the community cloud is everything is public. So you can always access the repository connected to a Streamlit. And if I quickly go back to my Streamlit app, you'll see up here there is this kind of link straight to the repository. Really great way to learn, because if you see something cool, you can go ahead and find out how it was created and see the code behind it. Super, super cool. The other thing is honestly just try practicing and creating and just build cool things. Try it. Go ahead and build your own chatbot. The other thing I'd really recommend is learning in public. I think it was Richard Feynman who said, you never really know if you understand something until you have the pleasure of trying to teach it to someone else. If you create something cool, try writing a tutorial, maybe publishing an article on Medium or similar, and share what you have learned. And I promise you, if you do that, it will help your knowledge so, so much. I feel like when I became an instructor is when I truly started to learn. It's such an honor and a pleasure to get to teach people, but it helps me learn so much as well. So that's my recommendations for really getting stuck in with Streamlit. I will say as well, there's so much content out there on Streamlit that all of the large language models know it really well. ChatGPT, Gemini, other large language models, they can help you with writing the code for Streamlit as well. They're great at debugging if you get stuck. So thank you so much. We're ahead of schedule because everything just went well. But yeah, if there's any questions, I'd love to answer them. But if you'd like to connect, I'm always open on LinkedIn or email as well. Thank you all so much.
Thanks so much, Lisa. That was amazing. Honestly, I don't know about everybody else, but I was locked in. I had played with Streamlit before, but honestly, your explanation of it was so amazing. I'm very excited to see what some of our creators create for the Ideathon and Hackathon. If you don't know, the Ideathon is starting February 28th, so that's about a little bit more than a month from now that we'll have our hackathon. So if you're interested in competing, you're already technically pre-registered, but we will send you information about signing up for DevPost and prizes and everything like that in the next couple of weeks. In terms of questions, I see we had some kind of pop up in the Q&A. You did answer the one about customizing the appearance of Streamlit app. So maybe we can go into the next one about what are some real world examples of apps built with Streamlit?
Yeah, what an amazing question. And I'm just going to bring us straight over to the website. One of the things I love is they're so community focused. There is a gallery and there are just so many beautiful examples of things that people have built. It's categorized into so many different areas. Honestly, there is no end to what can be built. Someone even made a gallery of things that people built in a hackathon. So that's so meta. But yeah, I do really recommend. So it's the gallery. I'll pop that link into chat. There is so much that is out there, so much that you can kind of build and create. You can see that they've got loads of articles about things that have been built. Yeah, so amazing question. And honestly, just take a look. There's so much out there.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And excited to check out that gallery. Our next question is around RAG, if you're familiar with that at all. But assuming we can, then can we connect this to our RAG, which we can then feed into maybe our business FAQs?
Yeah, absolutely. What an amazing question. So yes, completely. And Streamlit has some really great file options where you can upload files and then you would just ingest them, send them to your retrieval augmented generation models as you would want. And again, you can use that chat interface that you just saw us build with to power your RAG as well. You can also run Streamlit on any cloud. So you saw me use the community cloud, but you could also use AWS, GCP, Azure, or many of the others and run your own internal Streamlit server where you can then run your RAG on that. So you've got so many options. And for retrieval augmented generation, it is a great place to build. Oh, you're a tiny bit muted this much.
I am muted. Thank you for telling me. But our last question is, can we import Figma designs for the front end? So yeah, I think speaking to that, can we, edit that front end of Streamlit?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I guess it's one of the limitations of Streamlit. So where it's so easy to create, it does limit us a little bit. So the way you saw everything look is pretty much a limitation. You can import custom CSS and other things. So you can start to control things. But unfortunately, as far as I know, there's no real Figma design kind of interaction magic. Although I've not checked out every component and every piece of tool out there for Streamlit. So do some research, have a search. It might be possible. It sounds really cool. But yeah, Streamlit is a tiny bit limited on the look and feel because it is designed to get something running as quick as possible. So we lose a tiny bit of control because of that.
Understood. Thanks for answering that. And then back to, I guess, a previous question, because I guess I went through it really quickly, but if you could give a brief explanation about RAG and what that even is for anyone who may not even know.
Yeah, absolutely. So RAG is retrieval augmented generation. So this is where we potentially have a knowledge of something. So maybe we've got all of the documents from our business, maybe we've got some books, maybe we've got anything that we want to be able to ask questions of. We can use a large language model to embed our content into that model's language, essentially. So taking all of that beautiful knowledge, turning it into numbers, into vectors. And then we typically store that in a vector database. We can then ask questions, have that turned into an answer from the vector database, and then we give that to another large language model, essentially finding all of that relevant text from whatever our body of knowledge was, and then sharing that with the large language model we are asking the prompt of. And it's a really great way of grounding the model. Models tend not to hallucinate when the information is right in front of them. And it means we can ask questions about files that are kind of only available within our business that a large language model would otherwise not know about. And yeah, Streamlit is a fantastic front end for all of that. And there's some great tutorials out there. If you just Google Streamlit RAG, you'll be on your way. There's some really great stuff.
Thanks so much for that. I appreciate it. And thank you all for attending. One last thing, if you enjoyed this workshop, please let us and Lisa know by filling out our session feedback survey. Your feedback helps us to create programming like this and invite more speakers like Lisa to be able to teach you amazing, amazing skills like this. Really excited to see what everyone creates for the Create Her Fest hackathon. If you're using Streamlit, that would be amazing. I know Lisa's gonna be like really excited to see, you know, anyone who implements Streamlit. So if you have any questions, we'll share some resources in our email as well. Anything that Lisa may have mentioned, anything on Streamlit itself. So we'll send some resources via email as well. If you're not signed up, if you maybe came across this event on LinkedIn or on our socials, but maybe didn't like pre-register or anything like that, go ahead and go to our website at www.createherfest.com and register there, just so we have your information and we can keep you updated on the Ideathon and Hackathon coming up. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.